What is going on, everybody? I hope you all are doing well. My name is Sebastian. I'm with North Forge Athletics, the channel that brings you all the latest and greatest throwing news, tips, and tricks so you can get better at your craft. Today, we're going to be starting off our series, a beginner series, taking you from never knowing how to throw the hammer before to being able to go out and compete comfortably. We're going to start off this 0-100 series by how to hold the hammer, how to wind the hammer, different positions in the start, and then eventually we're going to get a little bit into the entry, but that is going to be in the next video where we really talk about how to enter the ball and how to get into your first couple turns. So if you're excited about this video, go ahead, leave a like, comment, and share. And without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing about the hammer throw that we got to talk about before we even pick up the hammer is we got to figure out if you're going to be a righty thrower where you're turning to the left, or if you're going to be a lefty hammer thrower where you're turning to the right. Now the hammer may seem a little bit backwards in this sense, but it'll make sense when I talk a little bit more about how we're holding the hammer. Once we figure out if you're going to be a righty or lefty thrower, the hammer throw is a little bit different than the discus or the shot put or the javelin, in the sense that we actually have a glove. You've probably seen this in the intro on my hand. I am a right-handed hammer thrower, so this actually goes on my left hand. Again, seems pretty contradictory, right? But for a left-handed thrower, if you're turning to the right, you're going to have it on your right hand. So talking about now how we actually hold the hammer, we have our left hand with our glove on it and our right hand that doesn't, if you're a right-handed thrower. What essentially we're going to do is the handle is going to sit right here inside the glove, and our right hand is going to come over top and hold onto these fingers here. This is going to build a very strong sort of cradle that you can set the hammer handle in. Okay, so I have a hammer here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these fingers, I'm going to put them on the handle here, and they're going to sit right here in these knuckles, so probably like where these knuckles are when they bend. I'm going to set it right in there, and all this hand is going to do is come right over top and kind of cradle. These thumbs are just going to kind of stick out. Now there is two ways to hold this hammer. You can either do this 4-finger grip, but what I personally do is I do a 3-finger grip. The reason why is the hammer is all about length. Now this may be a little bit more of an advanced grip, so if you want to stick with a 4-finger grip, that is totally okay to start off. But personally, I've been throwing for a few years now. I switched to a 3-finger grip and I'm never going to look back. The reason why is because if you look at this handle here, it's sort of in a V, but these sides are bent outwards. Now what happens is if you're in a 4-finger grip, this handle stays like this. When you're a 3-finger grip, the handle actually turns, giving you a little bit more length on the end. Now it may not seem like a lot, but one thing that you're going to learn throughout all of these series that I'm putting out is that every little difference matters within the hammer. So if you want to be a 4-finger grip, put the 4 fingers in, hand comes over the top. If you want to do a 3-finger grip, just these 3 fingers, the pinky hangs out, and then you just put on the other hand these 3 fingers over the top. And then just like the thumbs, the pinkies kind of just sort of dangle here. So whichever one you decide to go with, personally, I teach a lot of the beginners to start with a 4-finger grip, but I also like to give the option for the 3-finger grip in case it just makes more sense for them. Now, for a left-handed thrower, it's going to be a little bit different. For a left-handed thrower, your right hand is actually going to be the one that cradles, and you'd have a glove on this hand, and then your left hand would come over the top. And same thing with the 3-finger, it would just be something like this. Now that we know how to hold the hammer as a righty and a lefty thrower, we can talk now how to start the hammer. So what I teach most beginners to do is right up in the edge of a ring, the end of the ring, there'll be, either a metal ring or it'll be indented down. What I actually teach them to do is put their feet kind of straddling the middle point of the ring. They can be shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit wider depending on your preference. Some people have a wider base, they like a wider base. It's completely up to you. Now what you're going to do with the hammer in this case is you're going to have it sort of behind this right foot. So I want to think that this hammer is either right behind my right foot or maybe even a little bit inside of the right. The reason why is when we get into the next part about how we actually bring the hammer up, we want to bring the hammer out and up. If we have the hammer sitting out here, we're going to have a very hard time bringing it out since it is already out. What these positions do is actually give us sort of a leverage to bring the hammer out, because the whole start of this throw, when it comes to starting the wind from the static position, that's what this position is called, the static position, is we want to sort of emulate the orbit to begin. So now that we have the hammer placed behind us, we can put our hand on it here. If you have to bring it up, that's totally okay. What I teach a lot of people to do is sort of get into a powerful stance where you can sort of turn your feet if you want to, if it gets you more comfortable, but sort of like a linebacker stance. and just sort of turn your body towards this hammer a bit. Now we want to, as a righty thrower, we want to have our left hand again on this handle, right hand on top, and we're going to sit here and we're sort of looking off to our right hand side. And what we're going to try and do here is we're thinking with this right hand, we're pushing the hammer out this way. So it's going to look something like this, where I'm pushing the hammer out that way, okay? And don't have it hit your shin like it just hit mine. So again, we're going to push the hammer out. Push the hammer out. That's going to be the first step of winding. Now the second step of winding, I'm actually going to put the hammer down for, because I want to talk a little bit about what the hands are actually going to do. So we know that we're pushing the hammer out, okay? We have this powerful stance. We're sitting down, we're into our knees, we're into our hips. We're pushing the hammer out. Now what do we have to do here? We want to wait for the ball to come around, and we're going to have our hands follow it. We're going to bring it around. So again, it's a push out and around. Push out and around. So to sort of demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it out and around, okay? I'm going to push it out and around. So after you've done those couple things a few times, the push out and around, now what we want to think about is actually bringing the hammer over our heads. And there's a very specific cue about this. Now, when we have our hands on the hammer handle, our thumbs are sort of dangling here, okay? When we bring this hammer out and around, what we're going to do is these thumbs are going to be out. We're actually going to bring it up and over. So think about like you're having a baseball bat and you're swinging down. We're doing the opposite. We're sort of bringing it up here, okay? And we're bending at the elbows. So we're here, bringing it to the middle of our body, and we're going to bring it up, this right elbow up, and we're going to take these thumbs and we're going to think that we're splitting through the middle of our head. The reason why we want these thumbs in the middle of our head is we want the low point of the wind. There's going to be a high point and a low point, and we want that low point to be over this right hand side. It's going to make entering the ball and getting through your turns a lot easier. If we have our hands over our left ear or our right ear and not over the middle of our head, the low point of the wind could be somewhere over here, and that will make the throw 1,000 times more difficult. So get the thumbs over the middle of the head, and then what we want to do next is we're going to push it back towards the sector. We want to think the ball is reaching back towards the sector. What this is doing is we are emulating the orbit that we're going to have in our throw, okay? So thumb over the middle of the head, reach back towards the sector, low point, and again, we're just doing this nice even motion. So let's go ahead and put it all together. We're pushing out, around, up over the middle of the head, reach back towards the sector, low point, here. Just doing this nice even motion. I'll demonstrate it here. So hands on the hammer, here, nice and easy, nice and easy. And now notice I'm looking over to my right hand side over here. I don't want to be sitting here, because watch what happens. This low point shifts to the middle of my body. I want to be looking over to the right, because the moment I do this, the low point is now over my right hand side. So what you can do is you can actually do this as a nice warm-up drill. I call these multi-winds. They're a really good way to warm up your core, your obliques, and sort of get your body moving with the hammer. So for you lefties out there, it's very similar to the right side, just sort of mirrored onto the left. The ball, have it right behind your left foot, or maybe a little bit inside. We're still thinking push out, up, and we still want our thumbs to go over the middle of our head here. We still want to reach back towards the sector, feel that low point, come back up and do it again. So I'll demonstrate. So again, out and around. Reach back towards the sector. Let your body move. The other thing too I want you to realize is when I'm winding, I'm not keeping my arms tight. I'm letting them be long. If you remember what I said when we were talking about holding the hammer, when we're talking about the 4-finger, the 3-finger grip, everything about the hammer relies on having length. So if my hands are all short and they're inside my body, and I'm trying to wind and I'm just doing this movement, I'm really not going to be able to emulate an orbit that well. We want our arms to be long. Obviously, when we bring it over the middle of our head, our arms have to be bent, but that's why I want you to reach back towards the sector, nice and long here over the low point. Long, long. Because if I pull it in here, I'm going to have a really hard time entering the ball. In the hammer, we want our arms to be long at all times. So some quick notes from winding. Drills that you can do for working on this stuff is that little push up drill and just let it kind of swing back. You can also do push up and around, push up and around. And then you can even just have your hands without the hammer and just think about doing these winding motion here. We don't have to have a hammer in our hand to be able to do winds. We just want to think through this. So push out, up, thumbs through. The last thing I want to talk about with the hammer throw is just being relaxed. The hammer does not thrive from force. The discus, the shot put, the javelin, if you put a little bit more into it, the throw is going to go farther. Now that can mean pushing with the chest, pushing with the arm, whatever we end up doing there. But with the hammer, it does not thrive from that. What the hammer thrives from is being long, being connected, being relaxed. It is a very weird throw in that sense that you don't directly put force in to get farther distances. The energy has to go into being long and being relaxed. So you're going to see that message resounded a lot throughout this series where I'm just talking about being long and being relaxed. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, again, go ahead, please leave a like and share. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to comment them down below or DM me at my Instagram page at North Forge Athletics. I'll be very quick to responding to people so that way you are getting the most out of these videos. I've been Sebastian with North Forge Athletics, and as always, go fast and throw far.